the issue of succession came up. Before that, Prabhupada actually had planned the proper succession, and he passed away in November 1977. On 9th July 1977, Prabhupada wrote a directive to all the temple presidents. Temple presidents are the executive heads of each temples. ISKCON means many temples all over the world. That's the organization. And then there was a governing body. So he addressed a letter to all of them. In other words, it's like an institutional directive, not a letter to one person, where he said how on his behalf 11 individuals whom he selected would act as his representative, and he even gave a name to that, Ritvik. They would actually initiate people into the movement, or Diksha, give Diksha in the movement on his behalf, and such persons would become his disciples, not the Ritvik's disciples, his disciples. In other words, he set up a system of initiation within ISKCON, wherein his physical involvement was totally not required. Every step of initiation, performing the homa, selecting the candidate, giving a spiritual name, giving a mala, all these things are the part of the different limbs of Diksha or initiation. And at the end of it is through that ceremony that someone becomes a formal disciple of Prabhupada. Now, what happened was in 1977, November 1977, Prabhupada left this body. And then from November till March, nothing happened, no Dikshas happened. But in March, when the governing body met together, they practically bulldozed the entire rank and file devotees, their opinions and everything, and they declared that now we 11 are actually successors, and that the July 9 directive was a temporary directive for them to act on his behalf till he passed away, whereas that letter doesn't say so. It's a directive that for in ISKCON how initiation would go on. Now, what is the consequence of this? The consequence of this is, it's not simply a technical, how does it matter, his disciple or his disciple, how does it matter? One would ask, a common man would ask, why such a big fight for, whether they are the disciples of Prabhupada or whether they are disciples of Prabhupada. Why such a big fight? No, it does matter a lot, especially if you understand what is the role of the spiritual master as per our teachings. As per the teachings of Krishna conscious philosophy, the spiritual master is to be seen by the disciple as a perfected person, very dear to the Lord, and he fully represents the will of the Lord, and he is to be treated by the disciple as good as God, because he is a representative of God. So, that makes a lot of difference. You see, when I perceive someone as a perfect person, what he says, his instruction, his directions, everything is God's words for me. So these 11 persons, they assumed that position, whereas Prabhupada did not give them that position. Prabhupada told them to represent him in the Diksha. So, practically speaking, in our Krishna conscious philosophy, there is something called worshipping the spiritual master. It is very much part of our our tradition and scriptures, the spiritual master is worshipped. And the spiritual master takes the worship on behalf of the Lord, not that he thinks he is God, but he takes it on behalf of the Lord. That way he trains the disciples to worship and all these things. So therefore there is Guru Puja. Now these 11 personalities, they started establishing puja for themselves in ISKCON. And when Prabhupada, during Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada had, set up the system where in each temple hall, Prabhupada's murti will be there. He has a Vyasasana. During Prabhupada's time itself, when Prabhupada used to visit each temple, there was a big seat for him in the temple hall where he would sit and give lectures. Now these 11 personalities, what they did was, they cut the world just like cutting a cake into 11 parts. You take Europe, you take Africa, you take India, you take South India, like that, they divided into each zone. And in each zone, they practically became like Prabhupada for that zone. So whatever Prabhupada established, even next to Prabhupada's seat, Simhasana, Vyasasana it is called. It is a seat of the representing Vyasa. They put another seat for themselves. And they instituted worship for themselves from the rest of the ISKCON. So basically what happened was, a disobedience of Prabhupada's instruction on this Diksha. And it created, from 1977, it has created a lot of turmoil in ISKCON. And what really happened was, all those people who actually brought up this issue, look, the institution should run according to the way the founder has set it up. We have no right to change it. And especially being spiritual and disciples and spiritual master, we should exactly follow what he said. So many of their own peers asked the question, why are you doing this? Why don't you just follow the Ritvik system of initiation and let everyone understand that Prabhupada is their direct guru? The result of that was, since these 11 people were also at the helm of the governing body commission, holding power, the entire institution, internal institution, these people were ostracized. And practically they were, no match to the power and the influence of the 11 acharyas. Practically they were driven out of the institution, one by one. 1978, a group of people came up with some things. 1979, like each year they would come up, they would tolerate, okay, some changes may come, change. Eventually, Prabhupada initiated more than 5,000 disciples all over the world during his lifetime. And today, practically, if you count that generation disciples, are not more than 300 or 400 in the entire institution. Now what happens to the rest? Who are all the rest of the people who say in ISKCON? They are all the next generation. Now what happened next generation? They do not know the history. They do not know the background. And they actually, these gurus, self-made gurus, self-proclaimed gurus, they teach their disciples, look, he is envious of me. Therefore he is questioning why I am guru. They don't tell the entire story. And this guru-disciple relationship is a sanctified thing. If I take, diksha from you, and then if you are my guru, then if somebody comes and talks about it, it hurts, right? It's not a common thing that happens. I don't want my guru to be disrespected. But I do not know the background in which, like actually he is self-made, he is not authorized by Prabhupada. That all I do not know. I will simply, okay, I came into the doors of ISKCON. ISKCON has a system of diksha. I take diksha, X is my guru. Now those people who are the peers, they started telling, no, this is wrong system they are following. They are not, they are self-made gurus. So there is a whole, so the only way they can clear the atmosphere is by kicking them out of the movement in one way or the other. So practically the movement lost all the disciples of Prabhupada who actually built the movement from 66 to 77.